What is up, everybody? We are back with another DFS lineup builder strategy show for Super Bowl LX, talking all things FanDuel. This time, Ben Martinez, welcome back. You got some more sleep, not coming off the overnight shift this time, getting ready for your Las Vegas trip. I'm a little bit jealous of you there. When do you leave for Las Vegas, and what's this trip all about, man? I want to know.
Yeah,
I really don't even know what's going on.
No, I'm taking off Friday with my family. I go with my wife, my daughter, my son, and then we just rent an Airbnb out. I have a bunch of uncles and aunts that come up, and we just all hang out. They're, infatuated with all the Super Bowl squares. I love all the props. I have my DFS lineups I'm going to be setting. I even have my one, hopefully, big winning mini best ball playoff lineup I have going in. So I have a lot to look forward to for the Super Bowl, and Vegas is Vegas, baby. When you go there, you just want to play as much as you can with every type of game you could possibly get your hands on.
Is this a trip you take every year?
Yeah, this is about my fourth year in a row we're doing this trip, and it all started when the Super Bowl was first over there in Vegas, and I just had a bunch of uncles and aunts that were interested in going, and we're like, hey, let's just get an Airbnb and just have a good old time up there. And that's what we've been doing for about the past 4 years now.
Are you going to hit up Circa Sports? You got any sports books on your mind to get out there first?
Yeah, Circa is one of my favorite to go hit up, and also Caesars as well. So I'll have both of those on my phone, and going to listen to your podcast for the next couple of days. Dive deep into those prop bets, and let's get some winners out of it for sure.
All right, man, that sounds good. Let's definitely do it. It sounds like a good, wholesome, fun family trip there. It's been a couple of years since I've been there too, so I'm gonna have to live vicariously through you this weekend. But we're gonna talk talk all things strategy for FanDuel DFS on this short show here. I have the optimizer up from the solver, great product from Established to Run. There's others out there, Run the Sims, etc. We're going to talk about salary. We're going to talk about building a strategic lineup, contrarian lineup, so we're not duplicated by other people. So if we do place in the top of our contest, we're not going to be chopping the prize winnings up with 50, 100 plus people. Those are some of the basics out of the way, right? So we talk about projected points, we talk about salary, we talk about ownership percentages, right? Because we don't want to just play every single player that's 50% owned. Then if we win, what are we actually winning, right? Like the real question you want to ask yourself, whether it's best ball or DFS, is like, what do you win when you actually win, right? And that's what we're playing here for. We obviously talked in our last DraftKings show yesterday more about like some of these deep dart throw players, looking at some of the usage data here on PFF, the snaps, the routes run, et cetera, looking back over the last couple of weeks, looking back on specific players over the course of the season as well. The only real difference here, I mentioned this briefly, is that FanDuel recently switched their single game contest format to a 6-player lineup versus a 5-player lineup, which gives you a lot more optionality in getting unique combos, building unique lineups, etc. So we're treating this really the same as DraftKings, other than the fact that FanDuel is a half PPR scoring site, whereas DraftKings is full PPR. Obviously, a lot of us play in various redraft leagues where full PPR, half PPR, maybe some people still non-PPR as well. So that's really the only difference we're talking about here. I know we talked more about like ownership and positions in the context of the slate yesterday, Ben. I want to just kind of talk about salary-wise, like top to bottom, and kind of focus on, you had the predicted score of 24-7. I thought about that a little more. It's funny, like when everyone thinks one thing's going to happen, I start to wonder, like, what do any of us actually really know, right?
Exactly. Which way is the house pushing you to bet? That way they can come back and win the opposite way.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think the reality is that, hold on one second. I got to click this button here. Let's see if this actually works. Okay. Yeah, FanDuel DFS Strategy Show. Here we go. We're continuing with Ben Martinez. I'm trying to get this Instagram streaming thing right for the life of me, Ben. So we'll see. Fingers crossed it's actually going to show up on Instagram after this is over, while it's going on right now. So anyways, I want to talk about the top. And we have the 4.5 point projected spread, Seahawks favor, that really hasn't changed since last week at all. We did our second player prop betting podcast the other day with Mackenzie and Scott Seidenberg. And my prediction was 24-20, right?
Mhm.
Which is, it wasn't intentional. It was just like kind of off the top of my head. What do I think this is going to be? I respect both defenses a lot, especially the Seahawks, but I do respect the Patriots' run defense a lot. You look at the opposing quarterbacks they've gone up against. Let's remove the second half of the Broncos game. The Broncos did score 7 points on them, but it was one touchdown drive and nothing else after that. CJ Stroud with the turnovers. The Chargers and Herbert, no weather involved. They score 3 points, right?
Horrible offensive line, though, probably the lowest in
bad offensive line, but the Broncos had a good offensive line, right? And the Patriots still played well against them. And Sam Darnold hasn't been immune to having bad games either, right?
Sure.
Kenneth Walker hasn't been immune to having very inefficient games on the ground either.
Sure.
So 24-20, like, that was my prediction. It wasn't intended to be kind of right on the spread there either, but I want to kind of talk about that in context of like, how are we going to tell a story with our lineup and try to place at the top of one of these contests. I want to bring up the FanDuel contest lobby here, and like, what type of contest do you want to try to play, right? The biggest contest they have right now, contest selection, obviously a huge thing. $500,000 to first. It's a $15 entry, but 150 max lineup. So if you're trying to get into a field like this, just know that a lot of your opposing players here are going to be entering 150 lineups, right? Like, I tend to stick to the contest that I know that I can max out personally, so I can give myself as many throws at the dartboard as possible here. So I tend to stick to, like, if I'm gonna, like, I want to spend $100 getting into like one big contest with a big prize payout, $2,000 the first, or actually, which one is it here? $10,000 the first, $4 entry, 20 max. You spend $80 overall. That's just one example. Talk about the ones that I've reserved entries for so far. It's just been the single entry contest, a $10 single entry, $5 single entry, where the prizes for first are basically anywhere from like $1,000 to $5,000, but at the same time, you're only competing with like 2,000 people in a given contest, right? Like 1,500 people in a given contest. Where you look at here, like, if you enter to the big contest, 119,000 people you're going up against that could have similar lineups to you that are taking 150 shots at it, as opposed to you maybe taking 5 shots at it. So I think those are things that you want to think about in terms of contest selection. And we'll talk a lot more about this over the off season, heading into the 2026 season. We'll be doing DFS content and shows regularly, as well as best ball strategy too, which kind of fits into that realm as well here. So I kind of just want to get that out of the way first. And I want to talk about the lineups that we tend to build usually are for these smaller, I would say mid-sized type of fields here. So I just want to click on the $10 entry, single entry contest on FanDuel, 2,352 entrants, $20,000 guaranteed in prizes, $2,000 to first place, $1,000 to second place. If you place in the top 600, you're doubling your money. So that's about, the top 1/4 of the field here, which isn't too hard to get on a regular basis. But obviously, if you want to get really anything substantial, you got to place really in that top 3-4 overall in order to get at least $500 up to $2,000. So kind of want to just run through the thought process on that specifically, where I think in this type of a contest, we don't have to worry about necessarily nailing which of the fullbacks, Jack Westover, Robbie Oots, is going to score that touchdown. We can still get contrarian, but not have to get like extremely, extremely off the board with the players that we're picking here, right? So anyways, with all that said, want to go back to the optimizer here. Ben, obviously, like, we know my score, we know your score. I think both of us have Seahawks to score 24 points. I think the thing for me, when you look at these top 4 projected players, they're all coming in very heavy ownership, right? Not too much of a discount. All similar projections between 17 points to 19 points for JSN at the top. What are your thoughts overall on this group before? Who do you want to have more of? Who do you want to have less of at the end of the day, thinking of this FanDuel half PPR format?
Out of the top 4, the most ownership I want is probably going to be Sam Darnold out of this, because I see him throwing maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game. And on top of that, it's going to go, hopefully, JSN. Hopefully it gets over to maybe Cup. And quite honestly, with those 2 tight ends that they have that are going to be in 12 personnel for most of this game, and my feeling is that those 2 possibly could be doing some blocking and then slipping out to the outside for some little dink and dunks in the red zone, especially when they're trying to force Walker down New England's throat. I'm kind of thinking as well, Drake May. I know I have New England only scoring 7 points, but with his rushing ability and the fact that Seattle really hasn't faced many rushing type of quarterbacks this season, they've only really played against Jalen Daniels when he was healthy and a little bit of Kyler Murray in the beginning of the season. But other than that, they really haven't faced many teams that have that design type of running aspect, plays designed for their quarterbacks. Just a quick little stat: Seahawks have faced only 7 designed runs this season, which is the lowest by any defense that have seen that type of play called this season, but have faced 50 scramblers, which is the highest that any defense has seen as well. So going by what my game script is, I can see May maybe only throwing 1 touchdown here, maybe rushing for that 1 touchdown, or maybe both. Maybe I'm off and they score 14 points here. But I can see May getting a couple design runs. Seahawks don't like to spy. They didn't spy Daniels. They didn't spy Kyler Murray in both those matchups. So Seattle relies mostly off of their athletic linebackers and safeties to make the play on the quarterback off the scramble. And I think the defensive line for Seattle can also possibly force May to scramble a lot, just like he did when he sealed the game against Denver last week. So I like May. I like Donald a lot. I'm kind of trying to stay away from Walker. I'm not big on the whole Walker deal here.
Yeah, I'm out on Walker in terms of, like, when I say I'm out, if I build 25 lineups, let's say across DraftKings and FanDuel, I will have a couple lineups with Walker. I certainly will have at least 1 or 2 with him as a captain. But
yeah,
I'm not going
to him all 100%. Yeah.
The ownership projections as of now, and of course these can change, I don't think these will change too much at the top, is that I'll have far less than the average field, which is 57%. So the average DFS player that I'm going up against, let's say 100 lineups to make easy math, like they're going to have Kenneth Walker, let's say in 57 out of those 100 lineups. If I have 100 lineups, I don't think I want Walker in maybe more than like 30-35% of those.
Yeah,
overall.
I was thinking 25, but 30.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere along, I'm willing to be considerably under on Walker. But then when I do use Walker, I use him in the captain spot. So if he does go off, I'm kind of doubling up on that success.
Yes.
And trying to gain an edge there and catch up to the field in that aspect, right? We look at the MVP, not the captain ownership. We call it on DraftKings, MVP on FanDuel. Kenneth Walker coming in second overall in projected ownership for the captain spot behind Drake May, who's at 36% right now. Sam Darnold, 18. JSN at 16. Obviously, JSN is like the full PPR slot receiver. At least that's maybe more of the casual perception of him. He really hasn't been a slot receiver this year. He was that last year when he was really fighting for targets with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, but it's been a completely different role from JSN. I just want to talk about that since we're talking about this core group of guys at the top of the pricing structure on both sides. When you look at, I have the offensive stats below. I'm just going to go to PFF, to go to the routes run data. Click receiving data by accident. Let me click receiving here. Okay, so we're going to look total, top to bottom, from weeks 1 through the conference championship of his routes, right? He's a player who's on the field almost every single snap, 95% of the routes he's running on any given game. He's only coming off maybe for 1 or 2 breathers in a given contest. Look at his slot rate. 23% of Jackson Smith and Jigba's routes this season have been out of the slot. 74.5% have been out wide overall. So he is their guy who's going to be the bread and butter, scoring touchdowns, 12 touchdowns on the season. I think we're getting an ownership discount with JSN as the MVP, as our captain here on FanDuel, because it's the half PPR bias. And I think I want to try to take advantage of that. Even out of these 4 players, like, I'm willing to be overweight on JSN at 53%. He might be in almost every single one of my lineups. It's going to be hard for me to not include JSN, how I see this game playing out with the Patriots' elite run defense, but the Seahawks at the same time still being projected for 20+ points overall, right? So lower than the market on Walker, higher than the market on JSN. that's how I'm viewing this from that prism overall. So we'll move down a little bit to like kind of the. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So can you go back to the JSN slot and wide on the PFF thing real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So just one thing I was just trying to dig into, and I heard a couple people talking about it as well, that there's people speculating that possibly that JSN might see a bump in those slot positions because they're trying to get him away from Gonzalez and to get him off the coverage there. So what do you think about that? I think that could possibly play in a possible game script if he has a slow start to start, probably the first, maybe going to second quarter, and they move him in more into a slot.
I think that like when it comes to guys like Christian Gonzalez, he's a good defensive back, young defensive back, talented. The Patriots have maybe one of the league's top 5 slot cornerbacks in Marcus Jones as well. This isn't Patrick Surtain. And what I will say is, like, you have to think about it this way with JSN, like, just because he's running his routes out wide, he is like hands down right now this season the best route runner in the NFL. It doesn't really matter who's going to line up against him one-on-one, in my opinion. Like, you're going to have to scheme an entire defense to stop JSN. Even then, like, he's constantly figuring out himself, and with the help, obviously, of Clint Kubiak, who's the OC on the rise this year. They obviously both feed well off each other from what we've seen, but a lot of this is JSN. Like, he came into the league heralded as a route runner, and he's proved that he's more than just a slot receiver. So a lot of it is him. Like, you don't think these teams all year have been trying to stop JSN from getting the ball, right? Yeah, like, I think Ian Hartitz from PFF had a funny tweet where it's like, oh, look, the Rams tried to defend JSN to have him not catch the ball. Let's just try to not defend him and see what happens. Maybe that works if him not catching the ball in the conference championship game. So it's like, I don't really think that matters overall, frankly. I think JSN is going to find ways to get open. I think Clint Kubiak's going to scheme ways for him to get open. Just because he starts out wide doesn't mean he can't go in motion. Doesn't mean he can't find other areas of field. So I am personally like throwing out that notion, and if people want to buy into that, that's just more JSN for me to own.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe that might even drop his ownership percentage just because someone like that is thinking like the way that I just brought up that question,
Yeah.
So maybe there might be a little more juice to JSN playing him in the captain or the MVP, or even just in your regular flex position as well.
I think that like most of the season, a lot of the general public has been clamoring for Walker, like, because like, oh, the highlight reels look insane.
Yes.
The circus cuts and making guys miss, and they're just not realizing what's right in front of us is that, okay, like 25% of those runs end up that way. And I'm not knocking Walker. Like, he's a fantastic talent. Like, he, pound for pound, like carry for carry, one of the best in the league, but it doesn't paint the full picture, right? Of like, the guy who's like crossing everyone up on the basketball court and making everyone go ooh and ah, it isn't always the best basketball player either at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think those are things that like, yes, I understand the appeal on Walker, but I'm just trying to ground myself in reality to where he's been inefficient against a lot of like lesser run defenses in the past few months. There's a reason why Helani played up to 35% of the snaps. There's a reason why Charbonnet was playing more than Kenneth Walker at the end of the day too. So like, again, like Walker could score 2 touchdowns, right? And like it still struggle on the ground. It becomes a moot point, but like, that's just not how I'm going to play a majority of my lineups in FanDuel or DraftKings. I think that's where I want to try to do my IKB, my I know better, my I know ball take, is that like, I think that the Patriots run defense is the one thing I'm the most confident on the Patriots, both sides of the ball, that will show up in this game. And I think they match up very well with the running back who doesn't know how to hit the hole, who doesn't have the greatest vision. All of a sudden, Kenneth Walker's has a string of 3-4 carries in a row that get negative yardage. Do they just start giving Helani the ball on carries? And like, because Kenneth Walker out-snapped Helani last week on rushing downs 20-3, that gap could increase as well. Like, I swear I could see the situation, and like, this might not happen at all, but like Kenneth Walker, they give him the ball near the goal line, he loses 3 yards. they bring Helani in just to get the slower guy who's going to run straight up the middle, not try to dance around anyone, make anyone miss. I think that's why there's value on like a long, if you want to play long shot props on Helani first touchdown, Helani last touchdown, Helani to score 2+ touchdowns. I think there's value on some of those long shot props like that because of that. So anyways, like we talked a little bit, we kind of went down the salary structure to Helani, but it's obviously in relation here to Kenneth Walker. Let's talk about some of these other guys, Ben. Stevenson, kind of like on that border of like he's kind of alone as the fifth guy. The fifth guy in terms of salaries, $10,000 or above. Diggs is right behind him, $9,600. Then we kind of go into that middle tier. I kind of want to maybe break it off for the sake of this show is like right around the Kayshon Boutte range, like 7,200, like for before we move on to the next set of guys, because this is before we get into defenses, before we get into kickers overall. We have Kupp here, 8,600. We have Henderson at 8,200. Frankly, I have a hard time seeing 19% of the field play Henderson. I personally don't think that's going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong. I might not play any Travion Henderson in this game. He just might be a guy I don't have at all. 60 to 4 snaps. I think that's going to, we might see 62 to 2 snaps in this game, right? Even a more lopsided split, if that's even possible at this point. And then Hunter Henry, a pretty trendy pick, showing up as the one of the highest non-owned of the top 4 over here at 37% projected flex ownership on FanDuel. We talk about the defense versus position rating. I'll just pull that up again here for the sake of a lot of different websites had this. I'm just going to pull up the established the run chart. I like how it's set up. When it comes to tight end defense, specifically the Seahawks, they are bottom 10 in allowing tight end production in the league this year, and they're elite against running backs. They're above average against quarterbacks, above average against wide receivers. They are basically hemorrhaging production to that slot, middle of the field / inline position, to where it's like maybe Austin Hooper gets some extra run here. We talk about those 2 tight end sets, etc. Do you have any players in your mind that stick out in this range from Ramondre down to the Hunter Henry / Kayshon Boutte range before we talk any defense or stuff?
Yeah, out of all those guys, I think Hunter Henry is the way to go because he's going to – the weakness of the Seattle defense is attacking the middle of the field. And that's where Henry makes his bread and butter right there, man. That's where he gets it. I kind of wish, and I don't know if this is a prop bet that you can get an anytime touchdown for any tight end. I wonder if we could find that somewhere because quite honestly, all 4 tight ends, the 2 on Seattle, the 2 on New England, I think they're very, very well in play for scoring a touchdown in this game.
Well, yeah, let's actually pull that up. I want to see that. I just want to see what the props are for both of those guys. So Hunter Henry's at +240, Hooper at +750. I actually do want to talk about another tight end on the Seahawks once we get down to the bottom here. But yeah, I think the one thing with Henry and Diggs and Stevenson you got to look at in this range, like they are going to be pretty heavily owned. I am pretty interested in Cooper Kupp here. If he's only going to be 6% owned in this range, could easily see Cooper Kupp being like that wide receiver 2 for the Seahawks that Darnold trusts. It's like JSN now is what Kupp was 5 years ago. Like when Kupp was tearing up the league, Kupp was the best route runner in the league, wasn't the flashiest, most explosive player. And I don't think that's what we're saying JSN is either. So I think we could say the white JSN here, Cooper Kupp. Who knows? He could bring it back, and his usage has actually been trending up the last couple of weeks as well, where he's really separated himself a lot from Rashid Shaheed and even from AJ Borner in that offense. You look, I just want to pull up his receiving profile real quick here so we could talk about him.
Yeah, and if you think about it, there's only one position player on the offensive side that's played in a Super Bowl on both teams, and it's Cooper Kupp.
And it's Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp. That's right. He beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. We see here since week 15, 7 targets, 5 targets, 5+ targets in 3 out of 6 games, minimum 3 targets in every single game. 3 touchdowns on the season, 2 touchdowns since week 14. Obviously, he had the one against the Rams there, the revenge game. that's the guy that stands out to me the most.
And he doesn't miss snaps either. Because he's in there for blocking. He's a hell of a blocking wide receiver, and he's not going to be pulled out because they're deciding to run the ball. So he's going to be out there probably more than other than JSN on the offensive side for Seattle.
Yeah, I want to pull this up real quick here as well. In terms of slot points per game allowed here, the chart that I like to use. Patriots are slightly below average, so they are giving up more on the slot, 13th in the league, as opposed to fantasy points wide, where they are one of the top 10 in the league there. And when you look at percentage of targets in the slot, they are bottom 3. They are allowing the third most overall percentage of targets to the slot. So even though Marcus Jones has come up here and there as like a guy who is a good slot defensive back, I think that shows here. Like if you're bottom 3, if you allow the third most slot targets per game, but you are still like 13th in slot points per game allowed, I think that's a credit to Marcus Jones. But that's also saying that more targets are going to the inside than to the outside with Rodriguez as well. So that's one kind of way I want to look at that too. So he's a guy I know moving a little bit down here, we'll kind of go to the next range. Let's go from Seahawks defense and we'll go to Austin Hooper, right, for this cutoff here. I know you like the Seahawks defense. I know you like the Seahawks 24-7 in your prediction here. Can go a myriad of different ways. We have the kickers here, Jason Myers, Andy Borregales. Interesting to see their ownership reflected very high in the flex spot here also. Kind of like, two defenses we like, so the kickers could get more run than usual here compared to the skill players. Patriots defense, we have Matt Collins. We talked about him on our DraftKings show. He's a lot more expensive here in the context of the slate and the salary structure on FanDuel. And then we have Rashid Shaheed, AJ Barner. We have Alani. And then the kind of ancillary guys where, Demario Douglas, Jake Bobo, Kyle Williams, extremely low ownership percentages for these guys. And even a pretty decent ownership discount on Shaheed. We know he's not very involved as a receiver, but 12% here for Shaheed, 4% for the Seahawks defense, very low. What stands out to you here in this group?
Well, Shaheed being so low, and you're saying that FanDuel is more half PPR than PPR. I think that's where Shaheed is probably a more better play than maybe on DraftKings, because you're looking for running from Shaheed, handoff, jet sweeps. You're looking for, the 30, 40, 50-yard bomb to Shaheed. If it's not going to JSN, it's going to Shaheed. Cooper Kupp is not running that stretch type of wide receiver anymore. So I kind of wonder, Shaheed might be
the kick returns too.
Do you get the 6 points for the kick return touchdowns?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, Shaheed already had one. He split my Rams wide open with one the previous game before the playoff game. So I think Shaheed out of all of them is a really good play here. Mac Hollins, he's coming off the injury, but he also stretches the field as well. I think he could get a couple bombs down the field, especially if they're playing in a negative script and trying to make a comeback towards the end of the third, fourth quarter. I'm already in love with the Seahawks defense. I mean, I have a 24/7. I could possibly see one of those 7 points being a defensive touchdown, whether it's a scoop and score or a pick six. As for the kickers, I'm not really big on Andy, but I mean, how can you really predict, kicking in this type of game,
Yeah. So I think with the kicking, if you're going to get a discount on the ownership, it could be an interesting play. If Borregales is going to be 52% owned, it doesn't really add up to me, even in a low scoring format. I think with what you're saying, like, you have to remember too, you get the double dip with Shaheed and Seahawks defense. If he scores on a kick return, you get 2 touchdowns there.
Yes.
Right. So
and at 12% owned too, that's very good. I think
at 12% owned and then 4% owned for the Seahawks, but it's because the Seahawks are so expensive, right? Like, I understand that.
Yeah.
But the Patriots are only $400 less. So I think these ownership percentages will change, but I don't know by how much. Barner has been not very involved as well. Elijah Arroyo, I know you got to run in a few minutes, Ben, but Elijah Arroyo, he could be activated for this game. So if he is indeed activated, it could change all of the projected ownership as well for Eric Saubert. He might not even play much. Maybe it's Nick Collar up that winds up getting deactivated before the game. someone can't play, right? Like even the fullback Robbie Oots, I don't see him on this list here. I assume Established the Run maybe just hasn't added him yet to this player pool because I think he's still on the injury report too. Or guys like Jack Westover, the fullback / tight end for the Patriots. If you have to squeeze one of these guys in to make it fit, I get it. I think with no Arroyo, yes, you could make a case for Sauber at $1,200. I can't see. We talked about Collar Up. He hasn't run a route in either playoff game so far. So even though he has run routes, you have Barner, you have Arroyo possibly coming back, you have Saubert, who's kind of taken over that run blocking tight end role. I don't see Collar Up getting in that discussion. Derek Young, like he runs a couple routes per game, maybe just one route. We never know. He's an athletic young player. I don't know. Jake Bobo is the trendy guy. He caught the touchdown in the last game. So not too much interest for me in this bottom tier range. Obviously, the cheapest guy I like, which the ownership reflects that, is Barner and Halani. Or even if you want to kind of go up a little bit more, I think Shaheed, like you said, the rushing upside for a big play, the receiving upside for a big play. Clint Kubiak traded draft capital to get Shaheed, and now he's going to wind up leaving. I believe Shaheed is also a free agent. So
he is. Wouldn't
be surprised to see Shaheed go and sign with the Raiders next season, given that Kubiak is also going there. I mean, we could see Shaheed and Brock Bowers catching passes from Mendoza next season with Kubiak as the OC with a better offensive line. That's a conversation for another best ball podcast that we're going to do the next couple of weeks. So anyways,
I can't wait for those ones.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the optimizer to the things we've been talking about. I think an agreement in, we're going to make sure we tell a story. I want to see what this is going to look like. Not as the captain, but let's lock into our flex. We're going to go low ownership, the Shaheed and Seahawks D. I think that if people are playing Seahawks and Shaheed D, we obviously aren't going to be the only people in the field playing this combo, but it still will be a low-owned combo nonetheless, right?
For sure.
I think the question for us here is, where do we want to go with our MVP spot? We did the Darnold to JSN stack with Alani, with Darnold as the captain on DraftKings. Obviously, we get a big ownership discount with Darnold or JSN compared to May and Walker. I think a lot less people would play JSN as the MVP in this half PPR format. So I'm kind of cool. I think if we have Shaheed, I think we go Darnold at captain again here at MVP. And we have like the double stack. Darnold getting his passing production to Shaheed, to JSN. Let me move back here. I'm just going to add JSN as the flex. And what we're going to do real quick is we're going to optimize. I'm just going to do 100 lineups for the sake of time because I'm going to be building a lot of these different lineups out. And using the optimizer here at the solver, we're going to see what other players fit in best. So the top projected lineup given this build.
That's beautiful right there.
We have a May and Hooper, which we both like. We like both of those options. Another option here, May to Kyle Williams. We have an onslaught, the 5-1 Seahawks, the Patriots, where it's just Demario Douglas, just Drake May, which is semi-interesting to me as well. I like the first one here. I know we went with the second one on the optimizer on DraftKings, so let's go ahead and finish that up. We're going to go JSN. We're going to add Drake May, and then we're going to go down, and we're going to add Austin Hooper. And we still have $1,700 in salary remaining overall, which is good. Like we want to try on these one-game slates. We want to leave salary on the table because a majority of the field will be trying to eat up as much salary as possible. So the more salary you leave realistically, the more chance you have it being unique, being contrarian, to having your lineup not be duplicated overall in the whole, right? So anyways, that's our FanDuel strategy. Single entry contest strategy builder show. Ben, I appreciate you hopping on. I know you got to run here. I'm going to be back on a little bit later today doing an underdog prop parlay pick'em show with Mr. Mackenzie Rivers. So expect that here in about an hour and a half. We'll also have that posted on our podcast feed, on our YouTube feed, on Twitter, etc. Ben, appreciate you, man. Have a fun trip in Vegas, and I'll catch you back next week for some underdog best ball drafts, man.
Thank you, guys. Wish me luck on my sweat for my